Hi, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm going to tackle a topic today. Just going to read some notes off the screen here on the computer. And my topic is what's the best thing for you, and for you as a photographer, for you as a learner of photography, or you as a photographer? I recently did a video on the best different ways you can learn, the best ways to learn photography. This is just an extension of that, really. So what do you think is the best way to learn photography? Online, through magazines, or in person? I'm going to share a bit about my experience of teaching photography in person today, and you might pick up a few things that you might want to pick up on and probably do yourself. So I never ever did a lot of actual photography courses myself. I did attend one all-day course on wedding photography once, and I did attend a few talks given by professional photographers through the Australian Institute of Professional Photography, which I went along to some of those talks, which were very good. But apart from that, I learned from magazines, and more recently been learning a lot of things on YouTube, but really relearning what I already know, most of it, but except for some of the latest digital technology. So I've delivered lots of courses, and on wedding photography in particular, and also just a basic introduction to photography. And over the years, I've developed lots of Keynote or PowerPoint courses. Some I've delivered to people, some I haven't. So some of these courses I've developed, some I've thought about putting them up as online courses to go through on a Zoom meeting, and some I've delivered in person to people in various groups. So I'm going to talk about a couple of those different experiences that I've had doing that today. I'm just going to come back here so I know where I'm up to. So I'll show you just a bit of a PowerPoint or a keynote of one of the ones I've done a reasonable amount of times, and I'll share with you where I've actually done that one. And I'll share the screen in a minute. I'm just going to find this one down here. This is my basic introduction to photography course. This is how a lot of the times I've presented a course in photography to different groups, a church group. I've done some with the local council that commissioned me to do some for over 65s, and also for school children during their school holidays, teenagers. And this is basically the outline of what I've done. And I'll just quickly go through some of the introductory bits of it here. So introduction to photography. There's me, aged 5, started early. My wife and I in Central Australia, back about, more than about 13 years ago now. And I also used a few little cartoons from that What the Duck cartoon series, which I find very funny and very to the point about photography. There you go. I won't go on with that one, but it says, who are you to criticise your spouse? My wife is my best photography critic, and I'll leave it at that. Aims of the course. This is what I used to teach people, and I still do. I teach people one-on-one when they come to me, and I've also sometimes gone and taught groups. So this is the aims of the course: to learn how to use an SLR film or digital or compact digital camera in both manual and automatic modes, to gain the knowledge to take photographs to your satisfaction, to have confidence to photograph any type of subject, to have a greater understanding of the art of photography, to know what software is available for editing and adjusting your photos. I'm not big on software. I'm more about taking photos and just doing a few little tweaks. Hopefully I won't bore you to death. I try to keep my programs interesting. Some quotes. Life is like photography. We develop from the negatives. A camera is a save button for the mind's eye. I believe in equality for everyone except for reporters and photographers. That was Mahatma Gandhi said that. At the time when I presented this, Paul Burrows was the editor of a camera magazine. He still is Pro Photo, I think, these days. I'm not sure, but he's been around for a long time in Australia. That's just a little bit of idea of what I do. So how do you actually get this whole process going? What motivates you to run a course? Sometimes it can be money, of course. You're wanting to make some extra money on the side and you want to share with people. And sometimes I've been approached, and sometimes by groups, and sometimes just by individuals. and I quite happily do that one-on-one. And I've had some wonderful experiences teaching people one-on-one. And I taught lots of people wedding photography over the years. Now, one of the courses I did a little while back, I just alluded to it a moment ago, was with the one of the local councils. They approached me through another contact that I had because I was doing photography with the Parkinson's SA, now part of the Hospital Research Foundation, and I still am involved with a group of photographers who have Parkinson's disease, and I've taught them my course, the one that I was just showing you then. And so because I'd done that, the lady in charge of that referred me to this local council, and they asked me to come and do a course on community involvement called Come and Try Photography, and for over 65. So I said, yeah, I'd love to do that. So I did. I'll show you a little bit about that, some stuff on one of my blogs in a minute where I recorded what I did. It was quite a while ago now, probably about 13 years ago. So one of the things you've got to do is ask yourself, well, how long should a course go for? Over a whole day, or 5 or 2 hours? 5 times 2 hours, that's 10 hours total during the week or over a weekend. And sometimes I've just done one-on-one courses with people, and I say, okay, come for 2 hours. If you need more than that, we'll come for another 2 hours the next time. So that's people who just wanted to know the basics. So there you go. Now, charging for a course. How much do you charge? And I'll come back to this other one that I showed you before, and I can talk about that too. You might want to make it free, depending on who it's being done for. You might want to do some pro bono things for different organisations. If you do it for free, you might start with quite a lot of people turning up the first time, but then they'll drop off because they're not really paying for it, and you'll only get the ones at the end of the course, no matter how long it goes, who really want to learn, particularly if it's over more than one day. So if you charge a nominal amount, which might be $5 a session, and that's what happened when I did with this council. I'll show you some information about that in a minute. But what happens with that, it's the same effect as if you do it for free. $5 is only just $5. And quite often, if it's spread over a few weeks, people find other things to do, and they're not really all that committed because they haven't paid a lot of money. They're not outlaid a lot of money for it. But if you start by paying a substantial fee about what you think it's really worth, and it's a professional level course, like you might be teaching something like wedding photography, people will stay the whole time, even if you charge, $350, which I used to charge $500 or more. So the chances are, so depending on how much you charge, depends on how long you're going to retain your audience. I guess YouTube's a little bit like that too, as to how you retain your audience. Let's just have a look on one of my blogs, on the one that I did at the council, the Come and Try Photography. I've got a link here, and I'll get this up. And I just had an interruption then, so back to the drawing board. One of my sons dropped in to see me, which was very nice. So I was about to show you what I did with this local council, city council or suburban council, with an over 65s group, teaching them photography. And I'm just go back. I'll just share the screen now, and I'll go back to where I was going to show that to you. Okay, Come and Try Photography. I'll just show you this one here first. That was on the final day of our course in a park that we went to. That was the final group. We started off with about 35 people, and on the final day, that's how many we got back to. Anyway, I'll just go back to where we were here, and I'll just read from some of this to you. Let's just into the full screen. So my general feeling and feedback from the participants in this course, that this was a worthwhile exercise. The council actually organised finding the people, and they booked people in through a program called Eventbrite. I think it's around the world actually, and it's an online way of booking in for courses, whether they're free or whether you charge for them. And it takes a lot of the hard work out of getting people signed up to come along and do a course with you. In fact, my wife and I are going to a program next week, I think it is sometime, where we had to actually sign up with Eventbrite to go through that. So during this course, we had much discussion and viewing of samples of photography. I worked my way through that Keynote or PowerPoint program that I showed you before. I would have liked to have shown you more of that, but time doesn't allow that. And the highlight was a field trip to the local park where we practiced different techniques. And this is one of the advantages of doing stuff in person. You can actually demonstrate things and show people how. And you'll see some photos in a minute that we took. One of the interesting things during this course was that one of the ladies there, she said, "Oh," her name was Wendy, "Jeff, I've got some photos that I've got taken, just the negatives at home that I've never had printed." And I said, "I could scan them for you." And she took them on one of these Kodak Brownie 620 cameras. And you'll see her holding that in a minute, or taking a group photo or pretending to take one. But anyway, I took these negatives home and scanned them for her. And you'll see a couple of those samples in a minute. And because of what was in the content was how we decided to set up a theme of having a picnic on the last day of our training course in the park. So I was just talking about that here. A highlight was a field trip to a local park where we practiced different techniques. On the last day, we discussed a quiz I had handed out on the first day, and generally speaking, most were able to get the majority of the questions right. And I also offered to all the participants a couple of extra hours, extra time to help them fine-tune their cameras, as it is difficult to do that in a group setting. Quite often when people come along, people had a whole variety of cameras there. Some I was quite familiar with and some I wasn't, and some just used their phones, and that was fine. So I did offer extra time for anyone that wanted to have some extra training. I usually do that with people so they can get things right. And with their permission and the permission of the Burnside Council, I posted some of that's who I was doing it through, I posted some of the pics recorded during the course by the participants. And then I'm just talking about Wendy and how we would reenact these blend of old and new, create some picnic scenes with a blend of old and new technology. And that was some fun with my tripod and self-timer, getting some good shots. Now, I apologise for being the subject material in some of these shots, as I did not have any paid or volunteer models to help out. Of course, when you're running courses, you've got to either pay people to come as professional models, or you find someone within the course or yourself to be a model for you. And you usually have to get permission from people to do that, which is, with all the privacy rules and everything these days, you've got to get permission. So anyway, many thanks to the staff at Burnside who helped me coordinate that and set it up. Most of the course I did in some training rooms in their council chambers, but the last day was out here. So these are Wendy gave me her box camera negatives and I took them home and scanned them. So here's a few, and these were what inspired me to actually have that picnic theme on the last day. So we'll just go back to that. There you go. There's one there. And these were in the country somewhere. I'm not quite sure where all these were taken, but these were taken back. I think that might be Wendy. She was quite a bit older during this course. And there we are out in and we were using the same sort of card tables or picnic tables as were taken there. These were all taken on the box camera, the same as this one here. And there's a gentleman sitting down there, got his thermos fast there, having a cup of tea, reading the paper probably. And this was us on the final day. And this was Wendy taking a shot of us. I think I was standing on a wall taking a photo of her and taking a photo of the group. And we had a lot of fun. The lady sitting on the mat in the front there, she was a friend of mine who'd done my wedding photography course years ago. So that was really good. You'll see her there. She came along. And there we are, reading the paper. And yeah, I must have been taking that because I'm not in that one. And that's the final group there that was there on the last day. And we had a lot of fun. Now, these were some of the shots where I was demonstrating things like how do you film people doing action shots. So I was bowling a cricket ball, so teaching people how to freeze the action. So they're all using their different cameras. And then taking some of these sort of shots, you can see the people in the background taking some shots. How do you take portraits of two people? How do you do something like this? How do you get shots of it? Someone was taking one, obviously, from this angle where we are here. And there I am up on the wall directing people with my tripod up there, taking photos where I took those group photos where I'm in them with the camera set up there. And I used to have these little paper mache bride and groom cats that I used to use in my training courses. I unfortunately got rid of them. They were taking up space. But I used to set these up and say, well, how are you going to photograph the bride and groom? I did this on my wedding course, and I did it on this as well. And I used to get them to, just with those basic little dolls, pose them in different ways and photograph them in different ways. There we are, all having a big think about things and comparing results and checking our cameras, playing chess. So I took along a few props on this particular day to help us out with different photographic subjects. And this was where I was demonstrating how do you use fill flash in the front, and you've got backlighting coming behind, making sure that you've got to have a lens hood usually on your camera, or you're going to get some lens flare. A couple of little friends of mine that I took along, they are little motorised animals. The one on the left is a lion. He sings "The Lion Sleeps the Night" and the monkey does "Wild Thing." Demonstrating a golf swing, once again, trying to show people how to freeze things at the peak of the action, and grabbing a ball and marking it, as we say in Australian rules. And someone was taking that shot, a little bit of blur there, but that doesn't matter. And so that gives you an idea of the sort of things that we did on the training course on that last day. So I'm just going to get out of this screen now and come back here. So I hope you found that interesting. Now, the other thing I did at the church this particular time, I'll just go over to a blog post I did on my blog where we're talking about that photography training. We did this at the Edwardstown Church of Christ a few years ago now. In fact, it was 2013. And I'll just get into that, and then I'll share the screen with you. Okay. Back here. Share the screen. Okay, free photography training at Edwardstown Community Church. They're now called South Point Community Church, I think they're called now. And so they did some extensive advertising. There was they are a polling booth. When they have an election there, there's a polling booth set up in the church. So we had this course advertised when people were coming to vote. So that's how we got a good roll up. So there you are. For any who live in Adelaide, this was part of our promotion. For any who live in Adelaide and wish to take advantage of some free photography tuition lessons, please note I will be commencing some training sessions in the month of September at the Edwardstown Community Church, where they were, and this is part of the Church Create program for expanding and using our talents in art for our own benefit and the benefit of others. Here's an outline of what I hope to cover. And it would be good if people who intend to come would email in advance with some of their main questions about photography and their favourite subjects. I do that on all my courses. If I've got a group of people coming along, I make sure that they let me know in advance what their camera is and what their interests are and what are some of their more questions that they really want to know about. So these are some of the possible questions. What are all the settings for? How do I get the best out of my camera? Why are my photos blurry or fuzzy? Why do people have red eyes in my photos? How do I use flash or lights? What is the best type of camera to buy? What should I do to become professional or semi-professional? And also, if you intend to come as a result of this post, please let me know if you are coming so we are not embarrassed by too many people turning up. And that was 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock during the week on a Monday. And it was on a Monday each time, but over about 6 weeks it was. So the first week we did getting started and introduction, some homework assignments and a practical demonstration and a Q&A. And then the second time, the ins and outs of people photography, practical demonstrations, screening and or critique of participants' shots, questions and answers, photographing pets and wildlife, practical demonstration, holiday and travel photography, photographing sports and action. And I said I'll use keynote presentations and practical demonstrations and my archives of images and courses to assist in this training program. And at that time, I'd had more than 38 years' experience as a wedding photographer and general photographer. And you'll find lots of training in photography posts on this blog. And we had completed 2 weeks of training with 25 to 30 people attending each time. People are enthusiastic. Here is one response. This was from a young mum who wrote to me, sent me an email. She said, "Jeff, the photography session 1 was great. I have little photography theory knowledge, but enjoyed hearing about shutter speed, aperture, and how altering settings can produce more creative picture. I am a point and shoot girl. I do spend some time framing my shot and thoroughly enjoying capturing precious moments. I'd love to learn more about taking more balanced photos, considering where to put the horizon and subject within the frame, etc. But the technical information is not wasted, and I cannot wait to try to take some more creative pics. I consider myself to be a photograph historian for our family, and I would rather take one great picture than a few average ones. However, I have thousands of pictures. I guess that's pretty common. Looking forward in this digital age, looking forward to tonight. My favourite subjects are usually my children, spoken like a true mum, right? I hope to become a more educated photographer by the end of this course." And I'll just stop the sharing there. So that was a great course, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. But we started off with about 35. That was free. So we started off with quite a big group. But by the end of the course, we only had a group of about 15, but they were all pretty keen. And so there you go. It's just an idea of the things that I've done and how to go about it. Maybe if you're a professional photographer, you might want to consider running some training courses yourself. Maybe you already do. I know lots of people do. And they can do that on Zoom, or they can do it in person. And so get to it. If you want to go and learn photography, well, you can always approach me if you live in Adelaide, but one-on-one or in a group. But I would suggest you seek someone out wherever you live, because there's nothing like having an actual photographer there with you and answering your questions on the go, just using their experience, because you can't cover everything when you do a presentation. And really a training course comes into its own when people are curious and they ask questions, good questions, and they ask questions sometimes that other people don't feel bold enough to ask. And so that's one of the benefits of doing photography training live. So there you go. Not much else I've got to say. I just went through most of the notes that I had there. So what do you think? Do you think it's better to do one or the other, online learning, or have you ever done any courses with people in the flesh, so to speak? Bear in mind, you've got to do your homework when you book up for a course. Find out if this person is a bona fide person, if they've got experience. And sometimes one of the most common things I've heard when people go on tours with professional photographers, sometimes the photographer, the one complaint that you get from time to time is that we went on this tour, but all the photographer was interested in was getting his own shots and not really teaching me what to do. So you need to make sure that you book in with someone, if you're doing a training course, who knows what they're talking about, but is wanting to teach you, and not just rave on about everything that they do, which I tend to do a bit anyway on this YouTube channel, I suppose. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that experience with you. And like if you like. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you wish. And I'll see you next time. Time to leave the screen.